You know what nobody tells you about retirement? It's not the golden years, it's the desperate years. You've got all this time and all this fear that you wasted your life, so when someone young and beautiful tells you she loves you, you don't ask questions. You just hand over everything because maybe, just maybe, this is your last shot at happiness. I was 69 when I moved to the Philippines with my pension and my dreams. 3 months later, I was sleeping in a Tuk Tuk outside a 7-Eleven, counting coins for instant noodles. The woman I trusted with my heart didn't just steal my money, she stole my future. And the worst part, I saw it coming. Every red flag, every lie, every moment her eyes went cold when she thought I wasn't looking. But I ignored it all because I was so damn lonely. I would have rather been broke and betrayed than alone and safe. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our longtime viewers from Edmonton, and he wanted other men his age to hear what happened. I'm sitting in my empty house in Edmonton, watching the snow pile up against the windows, and I realize I haven't spoken to another human being in 4 days. The silence is crushing. My wife died 2 years ago, my kids live across the country, and suddenly I'm 69 with a decent pension and absolutely nobody to share it with. The house feels like a tomb. Every morning I wake up and think, what's the point? I make coffee for one, eat breakfast alone, watch the news by myself. The loneliness is eating me alive. That's when I download the dating app. I tell myself I'm just looking for companionship, maybe someone to have coffee with, but deep down I know I'm looking for someone to make me feel alive again. The Western women my age seem tired, worn down by life. Their profiles are full of warnings about what they won't tolerate, lists of requirements that make me feel like I'm applying for a job I'll never get. But then I start matching with these young Filipinas who tell me I look distinguished, that age is just a number. They call me handsome, ask about my life with genuine interest. For the first time in years, someone wants to know about me. Rosanna. Here's the first one who makes my heart race. She's got these beautiful brown eyes and this smile that makes me forget how cold and empty my house feels. When she messages me, I feel 17 again. Rosanna messages me first with a simple, "Hello, handsome," and suddenly I'm 17 again, nervous and excited. My hands are actually shaking as I type back. She tells me she's 26, works as a nurse in Caloocan, and dreams of traveling the world. "I've never been outside the Philippines," she says during our first video call, "but I dream of seeing snow someday." She's beautiful, not just physically, but the way she talks about her hopes, her family, her desire to help people. We video chat every night for 2 weeks and she always looks perfect, hair done, makeup on, sitting in what looks like a nice apartment. The lighting is always dim, romantic. She asks about my life, my dreams, my loneliness, and for the first time in years, someone actually listens, really listens. When I tell her about losing my wife, she cries real tears. "I'm so sorry for your pain," she whispers. "No one should be alone like that." She tells me about her sick mother who needs expensive medicine, her dream of opening a small clinic, how she's never met a man who treats her with respect. "Filipino men are so immature," she says, rolling her eyes. "They want a maid, not a partner. But you, Harold, you understand a woman's heart. I find myself staying up until 3 in the morning just to talk to her because of the time difference. My sleep schedule is completely destroyed, but I don't care." When she suggests I visit the Philippines, my heart pounds so hard I think I might have a heart attack. When she says maybe I could stay permanently, I start researching retirement visas before we even hang up. "We could have such a beautiful life together," she whispers into the camera. "I would take such good care of you. I sell my house in 3 weeks. My neighbors think I've lost my mind. Mrs. Henderson next door actually cornered me in my driveway. 'Harold, this is insane,' she said. 'You barely know this girl. She's probably after your money.' But I don't care what they think. My few remaining friends warn me about scams, but they don't understand. They don't see how Rosanna looks at me, how she makes me feel needed again. Rosanna and I are planning our future. She's found us a beautiful apartment in Manila. She's introduced me to her family over video calls. She even shows me the clinic space she wants to rent. Her mother waves at me from their simple kitchen, speaking Tagalog that Rosanna translates. She says you look like a good man, Rosanna tells me. She's praying for our happiness. I wire her $5,000 for the apartment deposit and first month's rent. She cries with happiness on our video call, tells me she's never felt so loved. You're saving my life, she sobs. I was losing hope, but you came like an angel. I liquidate my investments, close my Canadian bank accounts, and transfer everything to an international account I can access from the Philippines. $80,000. My entire life savings. It feels scary and exhilarating at the same time. My daughter calls me crying, begging me not to go. Dad, please, she says. This is crazy. You don't know this woman. But I tell her I finally found something to live for. You have your family, your career, I tell her. Let me have this. The night before my flight, I can barely sleep. I keep looking at Rosanna's photos, imagining our life together. Tropical mornings, someone to share meals with, a woman who actually wants me around. The humidity hits me like a wall when I step off the plane at Naiaye. The smell of diesel and sweat and something indefinably tropical fills my nostrils. I'm scanning the crowd for Rosanna's beautiful face, but she's not there. I wait for 2 hours, my excitement slowly turning to anxiety. Other passengers collect their families and disappear, leaving me standing alone with my suitcase. When she finally arrives, something's different. She looks tired, distracted, and when she hugs me, it feels mechanical. Not the warm embrace I'd imagined during those long flights. I'm so sorry, baby, she says, but her voice sounds flat. My mother had an emergency. I've been at the hospital all morning. She doesn't smell like the perfume from our video calls. Her hair is different, shorter. Up close, her skin isn't as perfect as it looked on camera. The apartment she showed me online doesn't exist. Instead, she takes me to a rundown building in Quezon City, where her cousin lives. The elevator is broken. We climb 5 flights of stairs, my suitcase bumping on every step. The room is tiny, hot with no air conditioning and nothing like what she promised. There's one small bed, a plastic table, and the bathroom is shared with 3 other families. It's just temporary, she says quickly, seeing my face, until we can move to our real place. But she cuddles up to me that first night, tells me she's so happy I'm here, that we just need time to get settled. Her body feels different than I'd imagined, thinner, more fragile. I give her another $3,000 the next morning for her mother's medical bills. She kisses me and promises we'll find our perfect place soon. For one incredible month, I believe this is the best decision I ever made. Rosanna takes me everywhere, to the markets where vendors call out prices in Tagalog, to meet her friends at karaoke bars where I'm the only foreigner, to beautiful restaurants where she orders in rapid Tagalog and translates everything for me. He says, "You're very handsome for an American," she tells me after speaking with a waiter. He says, "I'm lucky." She introduces me as her fiancé, and I've never felt more proud. Her friends are young, beautiful, and they seem genuinely happy to meet me. They take photos of us together, post them on social media. I feel like I'm part of something again. We move to a better apartment in Makati that I pay for. 2 bedrooms, air conditioning, a view of the city. Suddenly, our life looks like the dream she sold me online. She quits her nursing job to focus on our relationship and planning our future. "I want to give you all my attention," she says. "You deserve that." We visit potential clinic locations, walking through empty spaces while she describes her vision. "This could be the reception area," she says, gesturing excitedly. "And back here, examination rooms." We talk about marriage, and she even brings me to meet her mother, who's now mysteriously recovered. Her family welcomes me with a feast, everyone smiling and taking photos. I'm sending money back to Canada to ship my belongings. I'm learning basic Tagalog phrases. I'm posting photos on Facebook of my new tropical life. My daughter stops calling, but I don't care. For the first time since my wife died, I wake up excited about the day ahead. I wake up one morning, and Rosanna's phone is buzzing constantly. She's in the shower, and the sound is driving me crazy. I glance at it, just to see if it's something important, and I see messages from someone named Baby with heart emojis. "Miss you so much, baby," one says. "When can we meet again?" My stomach drops. When I ask her about it later, she gets defensive, which is new. "Why are you looking at my phone, Harold?" she snaps. "That's private." Then she softens, says it's just her gay friend who calls everyone baby. "You know how Filipino people are with nicknames," she says, but something in her tone makes my stomach turn. That evening she tells me her cousin needs money for his daughter's school tuition, just $2,000. She'll pay me back from her savings. I give it to her because I love her, but I start paying attention to things I ignored before. She never has any personal belongings that aren't brand new. No photos from nursing school, no old friends who remember her from work, no stories about difficult patients. When I ask about her nursing experience, her answers are vague. She doesn't. No basic medical terms that any nurse would know. Whenever I suggest we visit the clinic spaces she showed me online, she has an excuse. The owner is traveling, or they're renovating right now. When I try to bring up marriage plans, she changes the subject. "Let's just enjoy this time together," she says. I tell myself I'm being paranoid, that love requires trust, but at night when she's sleeping I lie awake wondering if I made the biggest mistake of my life. Her breathing sounds different. Sometimes she talks in her sleep, but it's in Tagalog and I can't understand what she's saying. Rosanna takes me to Caloocan to meet her real family, and nothing adds up. The house is tiny, cramped, and filled with people she never mentioned before. Her mother doesn't look sick. In fact, she looks confused when I ask about her recovery. "What sickness?" she asks in broken English. Rosanna quickly jumps in, speaking rapid Tagalog, and her mother nods but still looks puzzled. Through broken English and gestures, I piece together that Rosanna has been sending them money for months, money she claimed was from her nursing salary, but the amounts don't match. Her mother mentions numbers that are far more than any nurse would make. Her younger brother, maybe 16 years old, keeps staring at my phone, my watch, my clothes, like he's calculating their value. He whispers something to his sister, and she laughs and says something back. When Rosanna steps away to help cook dinner, her mother grabs my arm and says something in rapid Tagalog. Her grip is surprisingly strong, urgent. I don't understand the words, but her expression is clear. She's warning me. Her eyes are wide, frightened. She keeps glancing toward the kitchen where Rosanna is cooking, then back at me. She makes a gesture like money slipping through her fingers, then shakes her head sadly. That night, back in our apartment, I find Rosanna on her phone in the bathroom, speaking in hushed, urgent Tagalog. The tone is different from her usual sweet voice, harder, more calculating. When she comes out, she's crying, says her family is pressuring her about money. "They don't understand our love," she sobs. "They think you're just a wallet." I hold her and promise everything will be okay, but my hands are shaking. Something her mother tried to tell me keeps echoing in my mind. It starts with small emergencies that always seem to happen right after payday. Her cousin's motorcycle breaks down, $800. Her aunt needs surgery, $1,500. There's a problem with our apartment lease, $2,000 to fix it with the landlord. Each request is delivered with tears in her eyes. She shows me medical bills, repair estimates, official-looking documents, all in Tagalog that I can't read. "I hate asking you for money," she cries. "It makes me feel like a bad girlfriend." But then she'll curl up next to me and whisper, "Thank you for taking care of my family. This is what real love looks like." I start feeling like an ATM, but every time I hesitate, she reminds me how much she loves me, how we're building our future together. "When we open the clinic, I'll pay you back everything," she promises. The clinic dream quietly disappears from our conversations, replaced by more immediate family needs. Her grandmother needs medication. Her nephew needs school supplies. The roof of the family house is leaking. I realize I've given her over $20,000 in just 2 months, but when I try to discuss budgeting, she accuses me of not trusting her. "If you don't want to support our relationship, just say so," she snaps. She stops being affectionate unless she needs something, and our conversations become mostly about money. I check my account balance obsessively. watching. My life savings disappear while Rosanna becomes more distant and irritable. When I suggest we slow down the spending, she threatens to leave. Maybe I should find someone who actually wants to take care of me, she says coldly. Maybe I should go back to Canada, I reply weakly. Yes, maybe you should, she says without looking up from her phone. I wake up at 3 in the morning to use the bathroom and Rosanna isn't in bed. I stumble toward the bathroom in the dark, but I hear her voice coming from the balcony. She's video chatting with someone, laughing in a way I haven't heard in weeks. It's her real laugh, the one from our first conversations. I freeze in the hallway listening. She's speaking English, not Tagalog, and her accent is completely different, sharper, more street smart. When I hear her say, "The old Canadian is almost broke, but I think I can get a few more thousand," my world stops spinning. My legs feel weak. I grab the wall for support and listen to more. "He's so pathetic," she says, still laughing. "Always asking about marriage like I would actually marry this old fool. But he's been good for at least 30,000 so far." I stand there in the darkness, listening to her talk about me like I'm a business transaction. She mentions other foreign men. The German was stupid but cheap. The Australian was generous but suspicious. She compares notes on how to keep them sending money, laughs about my terrible Tagalog pronunciation. "He tries so hard to fit in," she giggles. "It's almost sad." When she finally comes back to bed, I pretend to be asleep, but my mind is racing. My heart is pounding so hard, I'm sure she can hear it. I think about every lie, every manipulation, every moment I chose to believe her because the truth was too painful. I realize I'm not her boyfriend, I'm her job, and I've been very, very good at it. The next morning I confront Rosanna with what I heard. My voice is shaking, but I force myself to be direct. "I heard you last night, on the balcony." At first she denies everything. "What are you talking about? I was just talking to my cousin." Then she cries and says I misunderstood, that she was just venting to a friend about financial stress. "You don't understand Tagalog culture," she sobs. "We complain about our boyfriends to our friends. It doesn't mean anything." But when I demand to see her phone, her expression hardens into something cold and calculating that I've never seen before. The mask finally slips completely. "You think you're so smart," she says, dropping the sweet accent she's been using for months. Her voice is flat, businesslike. "You came here looking for a young wife, and I gave you exactly what you wanted. You paid for the fantasy, Harold. Don't act surprised now." She tells me about the other men, Americans, Germans, Australians, all lonely, all desperate, all willing to pay for the illusion of love. She rattles off their names, their ages, how much money she got from each one. "You lasted longer than most," she says, almost appreciatively. "Usually they figure it out after a month." She's not a nurse, never was. This is her job, and she's good at it. When I ask about her family, she laughs bitterly. "Oh, they're real, and they're grateful for the money, but they think you're pathetic too." She starts packing her things methodically like she's done this before. "The apartment lease is in my name," she says without looking at me. "You have 24 hours to leave." She pauses at the door with her suitcase. "Go back to Canada. Old man. Find someone your own age." The door closes with a soft click and I'm alone with the truth. Rosanna disappears with my credit cards, my emergency cash, and apparently my dignity. I discover she'd been slowly draining my accounts for weeks. Small withdrawals I hadn't noticed because I trusted her completely. I'm sitting in an empty apartment with a suitcase and about $300 in my wallet, trying to process what just happened. The landlord arrives the next morning with an eviction notice in both English and Tagalog. Turns out the rent hasn't been paid in 2 months. Rosanna had been keeping the money I gave her for rent. My phone won't work because Rosanna had convinced me to switch to a Filipino carrier that she managed, claiming it would be cheaper for local calls. Now I realize she controlled my communication. I can't access my bank accounts because I need my phone for 2-factor authentication, and the Filipino carrier won't help without proper identification. I try calling my daughter Collect from the hotel lobby, but she won't accept the charges. The operator's voice keeps saying the caller will not accept the charges, in that mechanical tone. I spend my first night on the street sitting in a 24-hour McDonald's, nursing a cup of coffee, that costs 40 pesos and trying to figure out how this happened. How did I become this person? An elderly security guard named Manny takes pity on me around 4 in the morning. "You're not the first foreigner I've seen like this," he says gently, sharing his packed dinner. "There are many girls like her, and many men like you." He helps me find a Tuk Tuk driver named Jerick, who lets me sleep in his vehicle for 50 pesos a night. It's cramped, hot and humiliating, but it's shelter. Better than the street. Sleeping in Jerick's Tuk Tuk becomes my new reality. It's parked behind a 7-Eleven in Quezon City, and every night I curl up in the passenger area with my suitcase as a pillow. The plastic seats stick to my skin in the humidity, and the smell of exhaust never goes away. Jerick is kind, but practical. 50 pesos per night, no exceptions, and I have to be out by 6 in the morning when his workday starts. "Sorry, boss," he says apologetically. "I need to make money too." During the day, I wander the city, trying to figure out how to get home with no money and no working phone. I learn to stretch a cup of coffee for 3 hours in air-conditioned malls, moving from table to table when the staff starts staring. I learn to make instant noodles last 2 meals, to ignore the stares and whispers of other foreigners who clearly know I'm in trouble. The Canadian embassy wants fees I can't afford, almost $200 just to process emergency travel documents. Their bureaucracy moves at a pace that doesn't account for sleeping rough. "We'll need proof of your Canadian citizenship," the clerk says, looking at my passport like it might be fake, "and evidence of financial distress." I want to laugh. Evidence of financial distress. I'm sleeping in a tuk-tuk. I start recognizing other down-and-out expats, men who made similar mistakes with different women. We nod at each other in internet cafes and food courts, but don't talk much. There's shame in acknowledging that we fell for the same scam. I call my daughter from a phone booth using my last 100 pesos, and she cries when she hears my voice. She wants to help but doesn't have the money to wire for a plane ticket. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she sobs. "I should have done something." 3 weeks into sleeping in the tuk-tuk, I get food poisoning from some questionable street food and spend 2 days violently sick with nowhere to recover. I'm throwing up in a 7-Eleven bathroom, and the staff keep banging on the door. "Sir, other customers need to use," they keep saying. Jerick takes pity on me and doesn't charge rent while I'm basically unconscious in his vehicle, but I can see he's worried about getting in trouble with his dispatcher. His boss has been asking questions about why the tuk-tuk smells bad. I'm down to my last 50 pesos when I swallow my pride and go back to Rosanna's family house in Caloocan. Maybe they'll let me stay for a few days. Maybe they'll help me contact her. The trip cost me 30 pesos on public transport, leaving me with 20. But when I arrive, her mother looks genuinely surprised to see me. Through a neighbor who speaks some English, I learn that Rosanna hasn't been home in weeks, that she told her family I went back to Canada. She said the old man got homesick, the neighbor translates. Her mother shows me photos on her phone. Rosanna with a new foreign man, a German guy who looks just as happy and oblivious as I did 3 months ago. They're at the same restaurants she took me to, making the same poses. The neighbor explains, "Yeah, that this is Rosanna's pattern. She finds a foreign man online, brings him to the Philippines, drains his money, then moves on to the next one." She's done this maybe 5, 6 times, the neighbor says matter-of-factly. The family knows, but the money helps them survive. I'm not special, I'm not even unique. I'm just the latest in a long line of lonely old men who confuse desperation with love. Her mother pats my arm sympathetically and gives me 20 pesos for bus fare home. Home to a tuk-tuk. At my absolute lowest point, sitting in that tuk-tuk, with a fever and less than 30 pesos to my name, Jerick introduces me to Father Miguel, a Filipino priest who runs a small charity for distressed foreign nationals. I'm suspicious at first. Another scam. Another person wanting to take advantage of my desperation. But Father Miguel doesn't ask for money. He doesn't judge, doesn't lecture about my stupidity, just gives me a clean place to sleep and helps me navigate the bureaucracy of getting home. "I've seen dozens of men like you," he says gently. "Retirees who thought they found love and found predators instead. It's not your fault for wanting companionship. His charity has a small dormitory with actual beds, a shower, and meals twice a day. He helps me contact my daughter through the charity's phone, and she immediately starts organizing a Western Union transfer for my plane ticket home. She's crying on the phone. "I should have stopped you," she keeps saying. "I should have flown to Edmonton and locked you in the house." The Canadian Embassy finally processes my emergency travel documents, and Father Miguel's charity covers the fees. While I wait for my flight, I help around the shelter, meeting other men with similar stories. There's Dave from Australia, who lost his house to a woman in Cebu, Frank from the UK, who was abandoned in Palawan with diabetes and no medication. We're all different ages, different backgrounds, but we made the same mistake. We confused being wanted with being loved. "At least you found out after 3 months," Dave tells me. "I was married to mine for 2 years before I realized." We're all different ages, different backgrounds, but we made the same mistake. We confused being wanted with being loved. The flight back to Edmonton feels like a funeral procession. I'm wearing clothes donated by the charity, pants that are too short, a shirt that smells like mothballs, shoes that don't quite fit. I'm carrying nothing but my passport and a phone number for a counseling service that Father Miguel wrote on a piece of paper. The flight attendant keeps asking if I'm okay because I can't stop my hands from shaking. My daughter meets me at the airport, and when she hugs me, I break down completely. I've lost everything: my house, my savings, my dignity, my belief. In love. All the other passengers stream around us while I sob in her arms like a child. She takes me to her spare bedroom, the same room my grandkids use when they visit, with cartoon wallpaper and a single bed. I spend the first week just sleeping and trying to process what happened. The snow outside her window looks exactly the same as it did when I left, but I'm a completely different person. I'm not just broke, I'm broken. I apply for senior assistance programs, try to rebuild some kind of life, but mostly I sit in that spare bedroom wondering how I became so desperate that I handed my future to a stranger. The loneliness that drove me to the Philippines is still there, but now it's mixed with shame and the knowledge that some hungers can destroy you. I think about Rosanna sometimes, wonder if she ever felt anything real for me, but mostly I think about the German guy in those photos and hope someone warns him before it's too late. My daughter tries to help, brings me job applications for part-time work, information about senior dating groups, but I can't imagine trusting anyone again. My retirement began at 69 with hope, and ended at 70 with the understanding that some dreams are just elaborate ways to give away everything you've worked for. I'm alive, I'm home, but I'll never be whole again. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking I'm still in that Tuk Tuk, and for a moment, the nightmare feels more real than this safe, warm room where nobody wants anything from me except my company.